You know what? The basketball gods must really hate the Indiana Fever this season. And if you're watching this right now, you need to hit that like button because what happened to Sophie Cunningham is going to make you absolutely furious. I'm talking about a dirty play that might have just ended our season. And before we dive into this insanity, make sure you're subscribed because we're about to expose exactly what Bria Hartley did to Sophie and why the WNBA refs are completely out of control. Picture this. Sunday afternoon, Indiana Fever versus Connecticut Sun. Sophie Cunningham, the one player who's been holding this team together while Caitlin Clark sits on the bench in street clothes for the 13th straight game, is playing her heart out. She's been our defensive anchor, our emotional leader, the one person brave enough to stand up for her teammates when things get rough. And then in one horrifying moment, everything changed. Bria Hartley drove to the basket in the second quarter. Sophie slides over to help on defense like she's done 1,000 times before. But instead of a normal basketball play, Hartley loses control and crashes directly into Sophie's planted right leg like she's trying to take out the foundation of a building. The sound Sophie made when she hit the floor will haunt Fever fans forever. She immediately grabbed her knee, hopping on one leg before collapsing in absolute agony. And here's what makes this even worse. This wasn't some random accident. Let me tell you exactly who Bria Hartley is. This is the same player who literally pulled Angel Reese out of the air by her ponytail just days ago. The same dirty player who's been throwing elbows and making reckless plays all season long without facing any real consequences. The Connecticut Sun have been bragging about how physical they are like it's something to be proud of. Well, congratulations! You just took out one of the best guards in the league with your football tactics. Sophie's sister Lindsay didn't hold back on social media either. She absolutely torched the WNBA officials, posting WNBA maybe you should focus less on fining players for commenting on your poor officiating and more on hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game and protect your athletes. Pathetic. Praying for you, Sophie. And Sophie's mom Paula went even harder, calling Hartley a disgruntled player having trouble everywhere she goes. She's plain mean and plays out of control. But wait, it gets worse. Just minutes before the injury, Sophie was bringing the ball up the floor, 75 feet away from the rim, and got absolutely mugged. Hit upside the head, knocked to the floor, and the refs swallowed their whistles. Nothing. No call. This is exactly why injuries are plaguing the entire league. When you let players play rugby instead of basketball, someone's going to get seriously hurt. Now here's where this story takes the most insane turn you could possibly imagine. Because what happened after Sophie got carried off the court defied every single law of basketball physics. The Indiana Fever were down 19 points at halftime. They fell behind by 21 points in the third quarter. They had already lost Sydney Colson to a torn ACL for the season. Aari McDonald was out for the year with a broken foot. Caitlin Clark hadn't played in almost a month. They had to sign players off the street just to field a roster. Any normal team would have folded. Any normal team would have used those injuries as an excuse to pack it in and start thinking about next season. But the Indiana Fever aren't a normal team. What they did next will go down as one of the greatest comebacks in basketball history. Enter Kelsey Mitchell. Remember that name? Because what she did over the final 30 minutes of this game was absolutely supernatural. After scoring just 4 points in the first half while watching her team fall apart, Mitchell decided that losing wasn't an option. She erupted for 34 points in the second half and overtime. 34? That's not just good. That's the highest scoring performance by any player in the entire WNBA this season. The transformation was incredible to watch. Mitchell started attacking the basket like a woman possessed. She drew fouls, made impossible shots, and single-handedly kept Indiana in the game when they had no business being there. She went 5 for 5 from three-point range in the second half after missing all 3 attempts in the first half. Those weren't wide-open looks either. She was hitting contested threes with defenders draped all over her. But here's what really shows you what kind of player Kelsey Mitchell is. In overtime, with everything on the line, she scored all 10 of Indiana's points. Back-to-back three-pointers that essentially sealed the game. 11 for 12 from the free throw line for the night, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. She didn't just have a great game. She had a legendary performance that will be talked about for decades. And she wasn't alone in this miracle. Odyssey Sims, who the Fever literally just signed to a hardship contract because they're so depleted, played like she'd been with the team all season. 19 points and 7 assists in her first start. That's insane. Aaliyah Boston put up 14 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. That's what we call stuffing the stat sheet. Natasha Howard added 18 points. Even Lexi Hull hit a dagger three-pointer with 44 seconds left in overtime that basically ended the game. Coach Stephanie White could barely find words after the game. Her exact reaction when Sophie went down? Holy sh. Well, you can fill in the blank there. But after watching her team complete the largest comeback in franchise history, she was practically speechless about Mitchell's performance. "She just put us on her back," White said. And that's exactly what happened. According to the stats nerds, WNBA teams were 29 and 1,722 all-time when trailing by 20 or more points before this game. The Fever just did something that's basically impossible. They turned a 21-point deficit into a 99-93 overtime victory. That's not just a comeback, that's a miracle. Now let's talk about what this means for Sophie and the Fever moving forward. She's scheduled for an MRI today, Monday, to determine how bad the damage is. Some injury experts are already speculating it could be an MCL injury or damage to her kneecap. If that's the case, we're looking at Sophie potentially missing the rest of the season. And I'm just going to say it. There's almost zero chance she plays again this year. Think about what Sophie means to this team. Since the All-Star break, she's been averaging over 12 points per game while shooting better than 50% from three-point range. But it's not just the stats. She's the heart and soul of this team. She's the one who had Caitlin Clark's back when opponents tried to intimidate her. She brought the toughness, the intensity, the leadership that championship teams need. Without Sophie, the Fever are down to basically a skeleton crew. Caitlin Clark has now missed 13 straight games with that groin injury, and there's still no timetable for her return. Sydney Colson is done for the year with a torn ACL. Aari McDonald is out for the season with a broken foot. They're literally signing players off the street just to have enough bodies to put on the court. The timing couldn't be worse. The Fever are currently in 7th place at 19 and 16. They're 2.5 games ahead of the 9th place Los Angeles Sparks, with just 9 games left in the regular season. Every single game from here on out is basically a playoff game, and they're going to have to play them without their emotional leader, without their best defender, without the player who's been carrying them through this injury-plagued nightmare of a season. But here's what gives me hope. This team just proved they have the heart of champions. Down 21 points, missing half their roster, watching their teammate get carried off in tears, and they still found a way to win. That's not luck. That's character. That's the kind of mental toughness that separates good teams from great ones. Kelsey Mitchell proved she's a legitimate superstar who can carry a team when it matters most. She just joined Diana Taurasi as the only players in WNBA history with multiple games of 35 or more points, 6 or more assists, and 5 or more three-pointers. That's legendary company, and she did it when her team needed her most. The supporting cast showed they're ready to step up. Odyssey Sims looked like a savvy veteran who can run the offense. Aaliyah Boston had arguably her best all-around game of the season. Even role players like Lexi Hull and Brianna Turner contributed in crucial moments. This isn't just a team anymore. This is a family that's been forged through adversity. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. The WNBA officiating and player safety situation is completely out of control. When you have players like Bria Hartley running around playing football without consequences, injuries are inevitable. Sophie's family was absolutely right to call out the league. They care more about finding players for criticizing refs than they do about protecting players from dangerous, reckless play. This isn't just about one game or one injury. The Fever have been decimated this season. Caitlin Clark has dealt with multiple soft tissue injuries. Now Sophie might be done for the year. How many more players need to get hurt before the league admits there's a problem? How many careers need to be derailed by preventable injuries caused by dirty players who face no real punishment? The league needs to wake up. Fans don't want to watch wrestling. They don't want to see their favorite players getting injured by reckless opponents. They want to watch basketball, beautiful, skillful, competitive basketball. Not this physical demolition derby that the refs are allowing to happen night after night. But you know what? Despite everything, I still believe in this team. They just accomplished something that should have been impossible. They made history. They showed that no deficit is too large, no adversity too great, when you have the heart of a warrior. That's the Indiana Fever way. That's what makes this team special. Sophie Cunningham is a fighter. She's tough as nails. And while we wait for the MRI results, while we hope and pray it's not as bad as it looked, we know one thing for certain: she'll be back. Maybe not this season, but she'll be back. Because players like Sophie don't stay down. They get up, they rehab, and they come back stronger. To Bria, Hartley, and the Connecticut Sun, congratulations! You might have injured one of our best players, but you didn't break our spirit. You made us stronger. You gave this team a rallying cry. And when Sophie comes back, when Caitlin returns, when this team is finally healthy, the entire league better watch out. Because the Indiana Fever just proved they can overcome anything. This comeback will be remembered forever. August 17th, 2025. The day the Indiana Fever refused to die. The day Kelsey Mitchell became a legend. The day a depleted roster showed more heart than any team in WNBA history. 21 points down, countless injuries, and they still found a way. That's championship DNA. That's what separates the Indiana Fever from everyone else. They don't make excuses, they don't quit. They fight until the final buzzer, no matter what obstacles get thrown in their path. And that's exactly why, despite everything that's happened, despite all the injuries and adversity, this team is going to make some serious noise in the playoffs. So here's my message to Fever fans. Keep believing, keep supporting, keep showing up, because this team needs us now more than ever. Sophie needs to know we're behind her as she recovers. The players who are still standing need to know we believe in them. This season isn't over, not by a long shot. And to everyone else in the WNBA, consider yourselves warned. You might have thought the Fever were done when Sophie went down. You might have thought the injuries finally broke them. But all you did was wake up a sleeping giant. This team just proved they can beat anyone, anywhere, under any circumstances. The comeback queens are here, and they're not going anywhere. Before we wrap this up, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're going to be following Sophie's recovery every step of the way. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on that dirty play by Bria Hartley. Should she be suspended? Should the league do more to protect players? Let me know what you think. And remember, when everyone counts you out, when the odds seem impossible, when everything goes wrong, that's when champions are made. That's when legends are born. That's when the Indiana Fever shine brightest.